What's up, guys? It's Solo back with another video on Solo Hoops. And as far as the MVP award goes for this current season, I would have to say as of right now, Joel Embiid is going to win it, but we're not talking about this season in today's video. Today, I want to show y'all a player that is one of my favorite players in the entire NBA to just watch. And this is a guy that you guys can tell by the title and thumbnail that I think has the potential to become an MVP one day. Probably not, well, definitely not this year, but you know, 2-3 years down the line, maybe 4 or 5, I think this guy has the potential to do it. I'm not only going to talk about this guy in today's video, but I'm also going to show you a few other guys that definitely have a chance to win MVP. If you guys haven't subbed up, make sure to sub. I appreciate all the new supporters. We just passed 500 subscribers on this channel. Without further ado, we have the player that I think has some of the most potential in the entire NBA. And that player is, of course, Houston Rockets center Alperen Sengun. If you guys have been keeping up with the NBA, you know this guy is a bucket, and he is one of, if not the best players on the Rockets. I think he is, but it's debatable. I was talking to some people, they both said Fred VanVleet's a little bit better, and the main, you know, reason as to why the Rockets are winning, and they kind of have a good case for it because the Rockets weren't this good last year. They obviously had Sengun. Fred comes over, now the whole culture, the whole team, the whole vibe of everything, they're winning a lot of games, you know what I'm saying? Everything changed. So yeah, you probably got to give Fred credit for that, but Sengun's development over these last 3 seasons, this is his 3rd season. You guys aren't unfamiliar with Sengun, which you guys probably aren't if you're watching this video. We're going to get into his stats season by season in a second, but he has been developing like crazy. You guys see right here, 37 points, 11 boards, 6 assists, and a huge win over the New Orleans Pelicans last night, 106-104. The Rockets are 15-12, currently in the play-in picture, and no one really expected this. The Rockets were a team that most people had as a bottom 3, bottom 4 team in the West, and the West is very stacked, so that's not saying much. Like, it's very tough to be a top team in the West, but the Rockets are a team that are exceeding expectations, and I think a major part of that is because of Alperen Sengun. And this is a guy that I think is like a little baby Jokic. He's a little baby Jokic, and I know comparing someone to Jokic is insane, but this is his 3rd season. Imagine him in his 6th or 7th season when he continues to develop. Right now, he is, you can't see the stats. I'm not gonna, because it'll take up the whole screen if I enlarge the screen, but Alpi is averaging 20 points per game with 9.2 rebounds per game and 5.2 assists. And keep in mind, again, it's his 3rd season. He's 21 years old. Bro is 2 years older than me, which is crazy. Like, bro, I'm really at that point now where like a bunch of NBA players are like younger than, and they're just not like younger than me by like a few months. Like, they're like years younger than me. Like Jalen Duren, I think, is like 3 or 4 years younger than me. Okay, that's off topic though, but I think Sengun, give him a few more years to develop. He's averaging 20 already in his 3rd season. That number can get up into that Jokic range. Jokic is averaging, you know, 26-ish, 26 rebounds. He's already rebounded like a monster at 9.2. Maybe that number goes up a little bit more, 10, 11. His assist number is the main thing. I think his assist can skyrocket because he, in my opinion, is probably a top 3, top 5 passer when it comes to bigs. You obviously got Jokic. Sabonis is a pretty good passer. There's a few other you could name, but I think Sengun is in that mix for those, you know, 3 to 5 spot when it comes to passing bigs. So he could get that number up. And when it comes to the MVP race, a big thing that matters a lot, you know, nowadays is all the stats. You need points, rebounds, assists. Like, I was talking about this with somebody else the other day when it comes to guards. Stephen Curry had the greatest shooting season of all time. That's how he won it. The other recent guards is like Harden and Westbrook, and they're players that get a ton of rebounds and assists. It's tough for guards nowadays to get this award. We're going to talk about a few other guards in a second that maybe can win an MVP one day, that, you know, these are other young players with potential. But Alpi's a guy that can fill up the stat sheet. And another thing, obviously, is winning. Your team has to win. The Rockets are a young team headed in the right direction. So I think, you know, 3 years from now, 3 might be a little too soon, but let's say 4 or 5 years from now, if Sengun was to be in the MVP race, I would not be surprised. Let me know in the comments. Would you guys be surprised if Sengun was in the MVP race? And again, I said I was going to show you guys his stats. This is the obviously first season, then the 2nd season, and this is the current season. So you can see his points. In the 1st season, he was averaging 9.6 points, got that up by 5 by season 2, and then season 3 gets it up another 5. Is he going to be averaging 24, 25 points per game next year? I feel like that's a stretch, but he could. We see the flashes with it. He has games where, like last night, he had 37 points, which is his career high, by the way. So that's not an every night thing. but we see it all the time where Sengun goes for 25, he goes for near 30. You know what I'm saying? So I would probably say Sengun goes to like 22 and a half, maybe 23 points per game next year, but give him a few more years to develop and that number jumps. Again, first year, 5.5 boards. Next season, he's already up to 9. Same thing, 9.2 this year. Assist numbers jumped year by year, and obviously his minutes have gone up as well. But I think Sengun is going to develop really nicely. And again, small sample size. It's only been 3 years, but I really like what I've seen from Sengun. Speaking of players with MVP potential, especially young players, you cannot have this conversation without bringing up Wemby's name, which, by the way, you guys didn't see last night. He was a scratch from the game because pre-game he stepped on, I believe, a ball boy's foot and injured his right ankle. So I hope that's not that bad. It doesn't seem like it's gonna be that bad of an injury, but that's insane. Stepping on a ball boy's foot and that's costing you to miss the, like, that's an insane just sentence. Like when I saw that, I was like, there's no shot. But of course, Wemby, we don't really got to talk about it a lot. He's averaging 18.5 points, basically 11 rebounds per game, and he's getting 3+ blocks per game pretty much. I think by the end of the year, he literally might be near that 4 blocks per game number, which is insane. Keep in mind, he's a rookie. Like, when you really think about it, the numbers he's putting up as a rookie is crazy to at least me, because I know development's not linear, but he's gonna get better, right? He should. Of course, there's no guarantee, but everyone with the solid brain will say he's probably gonna get better, he's gonna improve. So this is just an insane year. And again, the Spurs are not feeding this guy. Like, if you watch the Spurs play, they don't feed Wemby the ball and say, go crazy. Like, he's putting up these numbers like kind of casually, like just in the regular flow of the offense. They're not playing through him or anything. So once they do, it's going to be scary. And if Wemby can stay healthy, he's a lock to win an MVP. I would probably even say at least 2 or 3, maybe even more. We should get crazy because there's not a lot of players that have won, you know, well, even just 1 MVP, of course, but 3 MVPs, that's some elite company. I think Wemby could do it just because of his defensive upside. That's the main thing. He's going to be crazy offensively. We know that. You know, maybe one day he'll be averaging 14 rebounds per game or something, putting up 25, 26 points per game, maybe even 30 if he goes crazy. But defense is where Wemby is really crazy. And I think he could even win some depoys, but that's off topic. Another player you can't mention, you know, young players with MVP potential without bringing up Anthony Edwards' name. He is 22 years old. And by the way, this is another off-topic thing, but I have made a list of the top 100 NBA players. I ranked them. So if you guys want to see that, sub up, turn on noties, drop a like in this video, and comment. If you're watching this and you want to see my top 100 rankings, let me know, because I'll drop it. I know a lot of people don't care too much, but I think it's kind of interesting where I have everybody ranked. Anthony Edwards, spoiler alert, is in the top 15. He's in the top 15 players in the NBA already. But when it comes to MVP, I feel it's going to be kind of tough for a guy like Anthony Edwards to win, because speaking on what I spoke on before, you need to fill up the stat sheet. Ant can have a season where he averages more than 30 points per game. I think that is going to happen, but he would probably have to be the 1 seed. He'd probably have to be on the best team, averaging 30, leading them. He's not a guy that I see getting like those Harden, Westbrook type of rebounding and assist numbers. Maybe he gets 6, 7 rebounds / assists, whatever. Right now he's averaging 5.5 boards, 5.3 assists. It's going to be tough for a guy like Anthony Edwards. There's going to be some other guys we mentioned. It's tough for players like that to win the MVP when they're not going to get crazy rebounds and assists. But what Ant does have is pretty solid defense. He's going to give a lot of effort, going to get a lot of steals. He's going to give it his all. So I could give Ant, you know, I could see him winning maybe 1 MVP. I don't know what y'all think. It's hard to predict, obviously, but that's what we're doing today. We're trying to predict MVP potential. A guy that I like a little bit more than Anthony Edwards to win MVP is going to be SGA, of course, from the OKC Thunder. I think if the Thunder in a few years, I think they're not even that far off, but if they turn out to be, you know, a 1 seed, 2 seed, maybe even this season if things break right, well, I don't think Shai's going to win MVP this season, but you know what I'm saying. If they're a top team, Shai's putting up 31 points per game, 6 boards, 6 assists. He's another guy that I think can get those numbers up. He's a good rebounder. He's a solid passer. He's a player I think could improve those numbers, get them to near 8 or 9. And he's, again, one of the best defenders in the NBA. So SGA, another guy with a ton of MVP potential. Of course, these guys are kind of no-brainers. Wemby, Ant, SGA, a few other guys I'm about to talk about. The main surprise mystery guy that I wanted to mention that's very, flying under the radar to most people is Sengun. I don't want to spend too much time on it, but Luka Doncic is only 24 years old, so I have to mention it when we're talking about these young players with MVP potential. I would be surprised if Luka didn't win an MVP. I mean, that might be the biggest MVP snub of all time for the NBA, right? I think he's gonna win 1, probably 2. 3 again is kind of crazy, so I'll give Luka like 2 MVPs in his future. Jason Tatum's 25, and I don't know if he's gonna win MVP. Him and the next guy that I'm gonna talk about, I'll give him 1. I'll give them 1 total, but it's gonna be tough. Like, the league is getting so good. You got guys like Wemby you got to compete with, Luka, even SGA, and then you got the current guys, of course, like Jokic, Embiid, and Giannis. Is Tatum gonna find one? Like, maybe he could get 1. I don't really see him getting 2 or 3, but you got to bring up Tatum when you're talking about players with MVP potential. And the guy that I was talking about that I'll give 1 to them combined is Devin Booker. I could see Jason Tatum or Devin Booker winning 1, probably not both of them. I like D Book, well, as a player, he's one of my favorite players, but I don't know. I think I would probably lean D Book just because I think he's a very efficient player. He could average, Tatum could average 32, but his passing took a huge jump this year. If you guys have been watching the Suns, D-Book is averaging 8.2 assists per game. He's kind of taken over that point guard role, which he's never really had. Used to play with Chris Paul or whatever. But D-Book's a guy, if he gets the number up to 10, he puts up a 30 and 10 season, sprinkles in 6 assists, and the Suns are like a 1 seed, 2 seed. And he's on good efficiency. I think D-Book could win MVP. And I know it's a very tough league. It's a stacked league. You got guys like Embiid averaging 35 and like 14. Giannis, Luka's going to be going crazy. But I think D-Book / Tatum, I'll give him 1. I'll give him 1 MVP combined. Last night was a solid night of hoops. Nothing too crazy happened. There was no crazy game winner, buzzer beaters. Nothing too crazy. LeBron, of course, turning 39 this month. I feel like I mentioned that in pretty much every video. Dropped a 40 bomb. 40 points, 7 boards, 7 assists. Luka had 39, but that's not even surprising. Bane had 37. Of course, we talked about Sengun earlier with 37. Solid night of hoops. Again, nothing too crazy. No crazy milestones where someone went for 50, 60 points or nothing like that. But overall, it was a solid night of hoops. Drop a like on this video if you guys enjoyed these type of videos. Sub up if you guys have. We're on the road to 600 subscribers. And click the video on the screen right here if you haven't seen it yet.